guys, so welcome back to Lex Reads. So in today's video, I'm gonna do a challenge with myself. I want to read one book in a day. Now I haven't done that. Oh Lord, when is the last time I've done that? I think it's been almost a year when I read The Mothers by Britt Bennett in like a day. Today is Monday and I don't work on Mondays. So I was like, this is going to be the perfect time for me to do that because I don't have a lot to do. I still do a little bit of like work. Mainly I do like my YouTube work because you guys know now girl get paid for it. But yeah, a lot of times I'll, do that. Obviously I'll go to the gym to do my 30-minute walk, and then I will sometimes do my sister's grocery shopping. My sister hates grocery shopping. So she's like, I told her, I was like, well, I don't work on Monday. So if you need me to do it, I'll do it. And I started doing that about like maybe a month or two ago. And she was out of town for like a while. But then yesterday we talked and she was like, yeah, can you do my grocery shopping? I was like, yeah, fine, good. So I have to do that. And then also today I have to go to my aunt's house to give her her birthday gift. But like that's like the only two interruptions basically. Now I did cheat a little bit, but I'm like, actually no, I didn't cheat a little bit because this is the book, by the way, What Looks Like Crazy on an Ordinary Day by Cleage. Now I started this already, but it was at like 1 o'clock. So technically it's not cheating because yeah. And I am on page 48. It's really weird to say what chapters, because it doesn't really have like chapters. It just, you know how some books do, it just has like a break in the book. But yeah, Pearl Cleage, she's known as a playwright, but also too, this was like her breakout book. And it came out, I want to say in the 90s, because I know it came out in the 90s. I just want to make sure which. Okay. 97, I believe. Yeah. It was 97. And then this also was a Oprah book club back in the 90s. And you're dealing with a woman named Ava Johnson. She has recently been diagnosed with HIV. And she, I think, grew up in Detroit. She's living in Atlanta. In this part where I am now, she has gone back home to just visit her sister. Her sister, Joyce, is like, ooh, so many years older than her. Almost kind of like a mother, to her. And you just see her talk about, like, just have the mindset of having the virus and what it does to you physically, what it does to you mentally, mainly what it does to you mentally, because right now she's not having any physical, reactions. It's just that mental state of like, Lord, I have this disease and I've been careless in my past when it comes to, my sexuality. And she's trying not to beat herself up about it. But the fact is like, I have HIV, yeah. And when I tell you this book is so good, I'm only on page 48 and I'm just like, oh my goodness. I want to read more Pearl Cleage. Like, this is my first time reading her. And I really wanted to read her after I discovered that she was the mentor to Tari Jones, who wrote American Marriage. And back when I started reading that book, I like to watch interviews of the author, talk about the book and just like past books. And there was a really good interview, I'll link it down below, of her, of Tari and Pearl. They're, talking about how, they met, and she met her when she was like 16. And yeah, she just talks about like the career in writing. She talks about also to her time teaching at Spelman, University. It was a really good interview. Like I said, I'll link it down below. But once I discovered that she was her mentor, and then when I watched a lot of her interviews, she's like a really dope person. I was like, yeah, I have to read her book. And especially I want to read the one that she's like really well known for. But yeah, so we are going to see if I can read this in a day. And this is also on my TBR, and I'm knocking my TBR list like nobody's business. I finished 2 books last week on my TBR, girl. So I'm very proud of myself because I want to get rid of that that TBR because it's some books, or at least like, narrow it down to a good amount, because there's some books that I want to read and just have the freedom to read. But y'all know I have to have a TBR. Like, I have to have structure. So yeah, I am going to start this, drink my coffee, eat my breakfast. It's 9:04. I'm probably gonna leave at about 10:30. Start doing my sister's grocery shopping, and then yeah. I feel like every time you see me, I have this bonnet on. I swear, you guys, I have more bonnets. I just been rocking this one. This one actually is Keisha Cole's bonnet. I got this for Christmas when I did my what I got for Christmas haul. First of all, it's like huge, and then I like this band because I don't because it doesn't come off my head or whatever. And then y'all know I got my Mr. Durag. I don't play about my bonnets, y'all. But yeah, let me start reading.
I love that book. It was a book that I had written out of real love for people that I knew who were suffering, and really wanting people that I didn't know to understand how to look at this moment in our history, to look at this moment in our country, to look at this big crisis that was coming in a way that didn't scare them to death.
Okay, guys, so it is currently 3:30. I did what I was supposed to do. The last time I read, it was about 10 o'clock, and now, like I said, it's 3:30. So I want to go home, read a couple hours, and then I still need to do my 30-minute walk. So I need to go to the gym, and then I do need to go to the dollar store. And I was at the dollar store today and forgot I need a whiteboard, a mini whiteboard, put on my wall. But yeah, so it's been like 4 hours of me not reading. But like I said, I do want to go home and read a little bit. And it is extremely hot. I've already sweated out my hair. It's like 81 degrees, but it feels like 91. So yeah, I need to get some air conditioning, and I just want to sit and read. So
it's hard to say, as the author, why What Looks Like Crazy on an Ordinary Day was a bestseller. Certainly I would have to thank Miss Oprah for drawing attention to the book.
I'm on page 110. We're making, good progress. But you remember how I was telling you guys the main character, Ava Johnson, she is HIV positive, right? And her sister's like a social worker, and her sister wants to bring awareness to, their church about just like safe sex and just safe practices and things like that. And like the first lady and the pastor and the reverend, they're like, no ma'am, no. Right now no one knew that she had HIV or whatever, but let me just read you this passage. She said, I had to have my doctor call from Atlanta to refill my prescription, and the pharmacist in town didn't waste any time spreading the news that I had caught the HIV. I went to the drugstore to pick it up and walked in on Gary Anderson, that's the first lady of the church, telling those 2 other old biddies how sad it was and how she just hoped I wasn't contagious since we had so many young people in town and all. Standing there with the bottle of pills in his hand, showing it to them and holding it like it might explode. I wanted to grab the back of Jerry's head and give her a big wet kiss, but I thought she might have a heart attack and I'll get prosecuted for murder. So I held out my hand to the pharmacist and said, don't you have to take some kind of oath to stay out of people's business when you fill their prescriptions? He dropped it in my hand like a hot potato. That's not the way you get it, I said, handling the pharmacist the money, which he took carefully so there wouldn't be any possibility of him accidentally touching me. This is the reason I left Atlanta in the first place. Couldn't go anywhere without running into the wall of ignorance that couldn't stop pretending, even when it's life. One thing I would say that I really love about Ava is, although she has been diagnosed and this is like a life-altering thing, and this is the beginning of the 90s, so the studies and just the studies and just things to go along with it, like it hasn't been produced yet, so you literally just think if you get it you're just gonna die immediately. as opposed to today, you can live for, years and years. But she doesn't wallow in her, diagnosis, in her sorrow. It's like, okay, I've been diagnosed, like, this is what I have to do. You know what I mean? And I love the fact that Pearl's not making this character just like woes me and just so distraught and sad. And my thing is, she has every right to be, clearly. But her thing is, that's not going to make the disease go anywhere. You know what I mean? And she has her days where sometimes she's not even like fit to be around or whatever. But she kind of just jumps back up. And right now she's in transition because she was a hairstylist and she owned like a salon and everything. And when she got diagnosed, she wrote to like all her lovers basically saying like, I've been diagnosed and you need to get yourself checked out. One of the husband's wives end up coming into her shop and like was saying take it back, and start calling her like, oh, this B got AIDS and all of that. And after that, like, people start canceling their appointments and things like that, because when people, they're not aware, so they just think like if you like look at her, or if you're in her space, that you're gonna get diagnosed, which is clearly, it's so sad. And the fact that she's putting that in there, because a lot of people, unfortunately, even today, they think like if if a person has AIDS, then AIDS or HIV, like if you're in their area or in their vicinity, there you're gonna get it or whatever. Or they're just like, they act kind of funny or whatever. But she is really exploring that. She's exploring the stereotypes, and just everything that goes along with being diagnosed. And also she's explaining the difference between AIDS and HIV, because there's a difference. Okay, HIV is the virus. Ava has HIV, not AIDS. So yeah. But just reading that part, I was like, are you serious? That's a HIPAA violation. Like, you're not supposed to tell people, tell about people's medicine and their diagnosis. Like, come on, dude. Yeah. But so far, I am really liking this book a lot. And I think this is a sequel. And I have to look into it. But yeah, let me get back to it. Okay, guys, so update. I actually did finish a book. It's 1:30 in the morning. So technically, I didn't read it in a day, but I'm gonna say I read it in a day, okay? Because look, it was a couple hours, okay? Like 2 hours or whatever, almost 2 hours. So yeah, I'm gonna give you some more insight probably, look, in a couple hours when I have to get up to go to work, but I need to go to sleep because I'm really tired. But yes, that's all I gotta say. Okay, guys, so yes, it is a couple hours later. And like I stated, look, a couple hours ago, I did finish the book, What Looks Like Crazy and Ordinary Day by Pearl Cleage, and this was fantastic. I rated this a 5-star. I would urge you guys to read this. Oh my goodness, this is my first time reading Pearl Cleage, and it will not be my last. And this book, like I said, it was just fantastic. The way that she captured Eva's mindset regarding her diagnosis of HIV was like nothing I've ever read before. This also is the first book that I've read that the main protagonist was HIV positive, and it's set in the 90s, so you get all of just the stereotypes of having that diagnosis. Also a lot of the, what would you say, just a lot of the the folk tales of having that disease, and how they called it the gay cancer, and just this, how they stigmatized her, some of the members of the church, how they just lightweight kind of attacked her a little bit. But Eva has that mindset where it's like, girl, I don't really care, basically. She knows that they're ignorant, and some of it does get to her, especially one particular scene when a man said some foul things, which is just unbelievable. And but yeah. My mind's like all over the place because this book was just so good. But she tackles, like I said, the awareness of, the disease. She tackles the stereotypes. Also, too, she not only talks about, Eva's situation, but Eva's sister, Joyce, is a social worker, and she wants to bring awareness to the church about, safe sex and abstinence and basically taking care of yourself in regards to AIDS and HIV. And when I tell you, look, the board is not having it. The first lady and the pastor is not having it. And when you really look into it, you will realize, you will understand why. But it was one particular scene where Joyce was, talking to the first lady, and she was like, we need to bring awareness to this. Oh, we just need to tell them no. And her thing is, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. There is a lot of girls and boys in our congregation that are having sex. Okay, it is what it is. Of course, you want to practice abstinence, and but like she said, it's the reality of the situation. Okay, and clearly they're doing it because you have girls, in our congregation that are teenage mothers. But the first lady was thinking, oh, it's just gonna tarnish them and put even more things in their mind. It's like, girl, it's already done. They've already done the deed. You know what I mean? But she just talks about people just not being aware. And yeah, I just, everything about this book is fantastic. Everything about this book is a 5-star. Now, this is a sequel, and the sequel is, and I'm glad I had it, didn't even realize it, Lord. I mean, I just got books like nobody's business, but that was a good thing in this particular situation. It's called I Wish I Had a Red Dress, and this is focusing on Joyce, which is Ava's older sister. And like, Ava's super duper older than no, Joyce is like super older than Ava, because Joyce actually raised Ava. Just to give a quick synopsis, it's Joyce, who is Ava's sister. She is a widow, and she's a social worker. She has an adopted daughter, and she's trying to obviously focus on now the new group that she has formed in the church. But like I said, she's a widow, so she's kind of lonely right now, and she's thinking, should I maybe go back into the the realm of being with someone or whatever? And I guess you just see how it goes. I have not read this, but after reading this, it's like I do want to read this, because I did like Joyce, and I know this one's focusing more on Joyce. I think it's some spurts of Eva and another character named Eddie that's in this, but the main protagonist in this story is Joyce. So yeah. And this came out, I'm always curious. This came out in 2001. And I was looking on Goodreads, and actually this had like 4 point something stars, and this had 3 point something stars. So there's, clearly it looks like they're saying this one is better. So that's why I do want to, read it, because right now I'm like, girl, this is my jam right here. This is a 5-star. So I am interested in reading Joyce's story. I might, do this again with reading the book, in a day or whatever. I actually might do that, but I need to get, right now I'm really focused on my TBR, because this actually was on my TBR. So once I get that, narrowed down to a couple of books, then I'm probably gonna, pick this up. But yeah, girl, we got to get that TBR down. So yeah, guys, that's it when it comes to this little video, this little challenge. And I succeeded in the challenge. I got that book done. And yeah. So yeah, guys, that's all I have for you. I'll be back with more Black books. Bye.
But I think that at the heart of that book was my own passionate response to the beginning of the AIDS crisis. And I kept trying to talk to people about this. And people were so afraid of the idea of what HIV could do, of what AIDS could do, that they would run in the opposite direction. So that as a writer, I took that as a challenge to say, can I find a story that will draw people to a person who is confronting these issues, rather than make them run gone in the opposite direction. And I really worked very hard to make a character in Ava Johnson who was somebody that was familiar, who was somebody who was doing the things that we all do every day, and then had to encounter something that is a crisis in her life. The thing I liked about Ava, once I started working with her, was that she thought this was the moment that her life was over, that this was the end of things for her. And what she discovered, and what I discovered writing about her, was this was really the beginning of the next phase of her life.
I was chilling with him on a Sunday. It was a good day, all day making love day. I didn't think that I could feel so comfortable and secure, but I did. And HIIV came to visit.